Hey, terrific third graders. It's Ms. O'Connell here. Today, we're going to work on lesson 7.6, journal page 232 in your math book. And we are going to learn about fractions that are greater than 1 on a number line. Okay, if we were at school, we would just be finishing a morning meeting and you would be gathering all your math materials to start your math lesson. And we'd be probably gathering around on the rug to start. If you don't have your math materials, pause this by hitting the space bar and go grab page 232 from classwork and your pencil. Okay, right before spring break, we were learning about fractions on a number line that were less than 1. Today, we're going to learn about fractions on a number line that are greater than 1. I'm going to show you a very basic example of that. So, here we go. How many halves does it take to make an apple? You're exactly right. It takes 2 halves to make 1 whole. If I have only 1 half, I have less than a whole. If I have 2 halves, 2 over 2, and we know if the numerator and the denominator are the same, it equals a whole, I have a whole. But if I have 3 halves, then I have more than 1. And in a little while, you're going to understand why I shared such a basic example with you. Now, before we start our lesson, I want to do a quick review about fractions on a number line and go into it a little bit about fractions that are greater than 1 on a number line. So we're going to look at this right here. Here is a number line that goes from 0 to 1, and we need to determine the numerator and the denominator of this number line. So the first thing we're going to do is determine the denominator. Now this number line, this point on this number line is going to be less than 1 because it's in between 0 and 1. But the first thing we want to do is count how many equal parts there are between 0 and 1, and that is going to give us our denominator. So there is 1 and 2 equal parts. We only go to 1 even though this number line goes to 2. Okay, we will always do that. Don't let that trick you. Okay, so that is our denominator, 2. Now we need to determine where this point is, and that is our numerator. And the numerator is the number of parts up to the point. And there's only 1 part right here, 1 little part. So that is our numerator. And so this point is 1/2. Now I want to look at this number line right here that is actually going to be more than 1 because you see the point here is past the 1. It's between the 1 and the 2. But to determine the denominator, remember, we only are going to count the equal parts between 0 and 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is going to be our denominator. Now to figure out our numerator, we're going to count the equal parts all the way up to the point. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 up to the point. So we have 6/4. Now we can tell that this is greater than 1 for 2 reasons. Number 1, the numerator is larger than the denominator. And when that happens, that means that the fraction is greater than 1. And also the point is between 1 and 2. If the point is on the right-hand side of the 1, it is going to be greater than 1. Okay, now we're going to look at your page 232. Okay, I'm going to share this screen, have your pencil handy, and your page. Okay, boys and girls, we are now on number line A, and we are going to look at this. And they want us to determine this point right here. What is that fraction. So let's remember the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get a straight line, is count the gaps between 0 and 1 to find our denominator. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we know our denominator is 3, okay? And then we are going to count how many gaps we have or parts we have up to the point, okay? We have 1, 2. So I'm going to go back and write 2 thirds. And we know that's less than 1 because it doesn't even go up to 1, okay? So if we start at 0, this is going to be 0 thirds. And this would be 1 third, 2 thirds, and our 1 whole is 3 thirds, where the numerator and the denominator are the same. Now, one little thing, a little mistake that people make is they count the tick marks, and they think that that is how many places that the number line is divided in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That is not correct, because you're not going to start counting the tick marks at 0, because that's 0. So there's nothing there, okay? So that's why it's easier to count the parts or the gaps. And if you insist on counting the tick marks, then you're going to always start after the 0. 1, 2, and 3. Now let's look at B, and then I'm going to let you do C and D on your own. So we are going to try to figure out the fraction where this point is. Now this number line's a little different. It goes from 0 to 2, okay? But we're not going to be tricked by that, because we're going to only count the parts between 0 and 1. So we have 1, 2. That determines our denominator, 2. So we know that the denominator for all these fractions is going to be 2. Now to find the numerator, we're going to count the equal points up to this point. So the equal parts, excuse me. So we have 1, 2, 3. 3 halves, okay? Just like the apple example that I showed you, okay? And we know that is greater than 1 because it's on the right-hand side of the 1 between 1 and 2, and the numerator is greater than the denominator. Okay, so now I'm going to stop share, and I'm going to end with one more example for you to go away with, and then you can go back and finish B by filling it in, and also doing C and D by yourself. So we're going to determine the numerator and the denominator, and we're going to start with the denominator. Okay, so we've got to look at how many equal parts there are between 0 and 1. We're not going to let that 2 confuse us. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know that is our denominator. Okay, now we want to determine our numerator. So we're going to count on. We stopped at 5 right here. That would be 5 fifths, 6, 7, 8. This fraction is 8 fifths. Again, we know that that is larger than 1 on the number line because the numerator is larger than the denominator. It's on the right-hand side of 1, and it's between 1 and 2. So boys and girls, I want you to go finish B, filling it in with all the fractions, and practice C and D. And tomorrow morning, I will have the answers posted. If you have any questions, please comment and let me know your questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.